The whistle pierced the crisp autumn air like a gunshot, and I froze mid-stride on the muddy field, my cleats sinking into the turf as Coach Harlan's voice boomed. "Drop and give me 20, Ramirez. You're running like your heart's made of lead." But it wasn't the punishment that hit me. It was the way his eyes locked on mine, not with anger, but with a flicker of something raw, something that said he'd seen his own ghosts on fields like this. I collapsed into the push-ups, my arms burning, heart pounding not from the exercise but from the electric pull of a man who looked like he'd just walked out of a storm and straight into our small-town hell. That was the day everything cracked open in Elmwood High. The day the new assistant coach showed up with divorce papers still creased in his back pocket and 2 teenage daughters trailing him like shadows of regret. I was Alex, 17, the quiet kicker on the varsity football team, the kid who'd learned to hide his crushes behind a helmet and a fake straight boy swagger because in rural Ohio, love like mine was the kind of secret that got you buried under bleachers. Coach Harlan, Jack, as he'd later whisper to me in the dim glow of the equipment shed, didn't know it yet, but he was about to unearth every buried piece of me. By halftime of our first scrimmage under his watch, the rumors had already slithered through the locker room like locker room snakes. He'd left his wife of 20 years for reasons no one dared say aloud, packed up from Chicago and landed here in our forgotten corner of the Midwest, where cornfields whispered judgments and Friday night lights were the only stars worth chasing. His daughters, Mia and Sophie, were ghosts in the stands. Mia, the sharp-eyed junior with her dad's jawline and a glare that could curdle milk, and Sophie, the freshman who hid behind hoodies and sketched in notebooks like the world was too loud. They didn't cheer. They watched, and that watch felt like a warning. I remember the exact moment it started, that pull between us. Practice ended late, the sun dipping low and painting the sky in bruises of orange and purple. The team had cleared out, leaving the field echoing with the distant hum of crickets and the slap of my sneakers against the grass as I lingered, pretending to tie my laces. Jack was gathering cones, his broad shoulders straining against the faded gray hoodie of his old college team, sweat tracing lines down his temple that I couldn't stop following. "Ramirez," he called, voice gravelly from shouting plays all afternoon. "You got a minute? Your form's off. Let's run a few drills." It was innocent, or so I told myself as we lined up, him spotting me through a field goal attempt. His hands steadied my stance, fingers brushing my waist just enough to send a jolt up my spine, warm and steady like an anchor in a riptide. "Breathe into it, Alex," he murmured, close enough that I caught the scent of pine soap and fresh-cut grass on him. "You've got power, don't hold back." I kicked, the ball sailing true, and when it thudded into the net, he grinned, that rare, unguarded flash of teeth that made my chest ache. "There it is. Knew you had it in you." We talked after, sitting on the sideline bench as the stars blinked on one by one. He didn't mean to spill it, I think, just the exhaustion of a man uprooted, but the words tumbled out anyway. "Divorce was a long time coming," he said, staring at his calloused hands. 20 years building a life that wasn't mine anymore. Kids took it hardest, though. Mia, she's got fire, but it's aimed wrong right now. Sophie just withdraws. I nodded, throat tight, because I knew that fire, knew withdrawal like old friends. My own coming out had been a whisper in the dark to my mom 2 years back, met with tears and a hug that said she'd fight the world for me. But Dad? He was gone before I could test those waters, trucker hauling freight cross-country, leaving echoes of toughen up, son in his wake. "You're carrying something heavy too, aren't you?" Jack asked suddenly, turning those storm-blue eyes on me. I froze, the air between us thickening like before a downpour. How did he see it? The way I scanned the room for exits when the team horsed around too rough, or the sketches of boys I doodle and burn in my backyard fire pit. Just, "Life's complicated," I muttered, kicking at a clump of dirt. He didn't push, just clapped my shoulder. Firm, paternal, but with an undercurrent that hummed against my skin. "It is, but complications? They're what make the game worth playing." That night, I lay in bed, the ceiling fan whirring like accusations, replaying his touch, his voice. Elmwood was small, the kind of place where everyone knew your sins before you confessed them. Queer kids like me learned early to blend, to laugh at the jokes, to date the cheerleaders in name only. But Jack Harlan? He was a complication I couldn't blend away. And as sleep finally claimed me, I dreamed of fields without fences, of a man who saw me and didn't look away. The next week blurred into a rhythm of drills and dawns, Jack's presence weaving through our practices like a thread pulling tight. He was good, damn good, turning our ragtag squad into something fierce, barking orders with a charisma that had even the slackers like Tommy Reyes showing up early. But it was the quiet moments that undid me. The way he'd linger after film sessions, breaking down plays with me one-on-one, his knee brushing mine under the AV cart, the thermos of black coffee he shared on cold mornings, steam curling between us like secrets. "You remind me of myself at your age," he'd say, and I'd hang on those words, starving for the map they promised to a life unlived. Mia and Sophie were enigmas in the periphery. I'd catch glimpses. Mia in the halls, slamming lockers with a fury that turned heads, her dark hair whipping like a flag in surrender. Sophie in the library, nose in a book, but her eyes darting up whenever Jack's name echoed from the gym. They lived with him in the old Victorian on Maple Street, the one with the sagging porch and ivy choking the rails, a rental that screamed temporary. Rumor mill churned. The divorce was messy, wife's lawyer circling like a vulture, custody battles brewing. Jack never confirmed, but the shadows under his eyes grew longer, and once, during a rain-soaked practice, I saw him wipe away what might have been tears under the guise of sweat. It built slow, that thing between us, romance disguised as mentorship, tension coiled in every glance. One evening, after a brutal loss to Riverton, the team scattered like shrapnel, but I stayed, helping stack pads in the storage room. The air was thick with the musk of leather and defeat, fluorescent buzz overhead casting harsh shadows. Jack slumped against a shelf, head in hands. "We had he growled, voice cracking. I pushed too hard. I knelt beside him, bold in the dimness, my hand hovering before landing on his arm. "You gave us fire, coach. That's more than we've had in years." He looked up, and God, that look vulnerable, stripped like I'd peeled back the armor. Our faces were inches apart, breaths mingling, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the pulse in his throat, the warmth radiating off him. Then he pulled back, standing abrupt, rubbing his neck. "Get home safe, Alex. And thanks." I nodded, heat flooding my cheeks, the unspoken hanging heavy as I pedaled home through the drizzle, rain mixing with the sting in my eyes. What was I doing? He was twice my age, a father straight as the Ohio River, or was he? The divorce whispers hinted at more, but hope was a dangerous spark in dry tinder. By mid-season, the team was undefeated, Jack's strategies turning us into legends in a town starved for heroes. Practices became my church, his voice my scripture. We'd talk late, about everything and nothing. His glory days at Northwestern, sacked by linebackers but rising every time. My dreams of art school in Chicago, sketching athletes in motion to hide the faces I longed to capture. "You've got soul in those kicks," he'd say, and I'd blush, wondering if he saw the soul I hid deeper. But the daughters loomed, fault lines waiting to crack. Mia joined the cheer squad, her routines sharp as knives, always positioning herself where she could watch the field. And Jack, with equal parts pride and poison. Sophie, quieter, started showing up to games, sketchpad in lap, her drawings haunting the art room walls. Fractured families in charcoal, men with empty hands. I befriended her first, or tried. Shared a lunch table one day when she sat alone, trading bites of sandwich for stories. "Dad's trying," she said softly, eyes on her tray. "But Mom," she says, "he's selfish. That he left because of lies." The word hung and I pressed gently. "Lies." She shrugged, tracing a finger through ketchup. "Stuff from before, when he was young, like us." It gnawed at me, that hint of buried truth. And then, the first fracture. A Friday night bonfire after our win over Central. Flames leaping high as beer cans clinked and stories swelled. Jack was there, off-duty in jeans and a flannel that hugged his frame, laughing with parents, but his eyes found mine across the pit, holding just a beat too long. Mia saw it, or thought she did. She cornered me later, as embers died to glow, her breath hot with cider. Stay away from him, kicker boy. He's got enough messes without your puppy eyes adding to it. Her words sliced, but the fear beneath them, that was the real blade. I'm just on the team, I stammered, but she laughed bitter. Sure, like I don't know that look. Sleep evaded me that night, Mia's warning looping like a bad play. Was it that obvious? Did Jack feel it too, this magnetic wrongness? The next practice he was distant, corrections clipped, eyes avoiding mine. Hurt bloomed, sharp as a cleat to the ribs. After, I confronted him in the parking lot, gravel crunching under my trucks. Did I do something wrong? He sighed, leaning against his battered Ford, the one with the divorced Dodger bumper sticker a teammate had slapped on as a joke. Alex, you're a good kid. Too good. This town's got rules, and I'm not about breaking more than I already have. His words were a door slamming, but the crack in his voice? That was the key turning back. Rules be damned, I whispered, stepping closer. The lot empty save for the hum of sodium lights. I see you, Jack. The real you. He searched my face, conflict raging like thunderheads, and then, God help me, his hand cupped my cheek, thumb rough against my skin. You shouldn't, he breathed, but he didn't pull away. Our lips met tentative, a brush of salt and longing, the world tilting on its axis. It was chaste, fleeting, but it rewrote me. We didn't speak of it, not then. Stolen moments became our language. A hand on my back during huddles, longer than necessary. Notes slipped into my playbook. Keep your head up, kid. You've got this. Romance bloomed fragile, hidden in the folds of routine. His stories of a youth spent denying himself unfolding like petals in the dark. I loved a boy once, he confessed one night. Us parked on a back road overlook, stars sprawling above like spilled diamonds. College. Ended bad family, fear. Married to forget. I took his hand, interlacing fingers, the weight of it grounding. No more forgetting. But Mia's eyes sharpened. Sophie's sketches darkened. Whispers grew. A teammate's offhand coach got that glow, twisted into innuendo. The climax brewed slow, a storm gathering force. It broke at homecoming. Our biggest game, stadium packed with Elmwood's pride. We won in overtime, my game-winning kick sailing true under Jack's roar from the sidelines. Elation surged, but in the chaos of celebration, Mia stormed the field, face twisted, dragging Sophie behind. Tell them, Dad! She screamed over the din, voice cracking like ice. Tell them why you really left Mom. The crowd hushed, a ripple of confusion. Jack paled, reaching for her. Mia, not here. But she whirled on me, finger jabbing. It's him, isn't it? The faggot kicker. I saw you. Kissing in the lot. Gasps rippled, phones raised like weapons. Betrayal hit like a blindside tackle. Sophie, tears streaming, clutched her pad, pages fluttering open to reveal sketches. Us, intertwined in shadow, captured from a window. She'd seen, drawn, and Mia had weaponized it. The world imploded. Teammates backed away, murmurs swelling to a roar. Jack stepped between us, voice steady. Enough. Mia, Sophie, this isn't about hate. It's about truth. But the damage cascaded. Calls to the principal by dawn. Parents baying for blood. Headlines in the local rag screaming scandal. Jack suspended pending review. Practices canceled. Our fragile world shattering. I ran that night, through cornstalks whipping like accusations, collapsing in the field where it started. Jack found me at midnight, truck headlights cutting the dark. I'm sorry, he choked, pulling me into his arms, solid and unyielding. We cried there under a moonless sky, his lips finding mine again. Not tentative, but fierce, a declaration. I love you, Alex. Damn the cost. The words unlocked me, terror and joy colliding in a torrent. But dawn brought reality. His ex circling for custody, Mia's rage a fortress, Sophie lost in guilt. Weeks blurred into exile. Jack fought. Meetings with the board, letters from allies. But Elmwood's underbelly festered. Slurs scrawled on my locker, homewrecker etched in the truck's door. I withdrew, sketches piling like unanswered prayers. Mom's arms my only harbor. Fight for what's real, she whispered, echoing Jack's playbook. Sophie reached out first. A note slipped under my door. Drawings of fractured hearts mending. A plea. I didn't mean. Help fix. We met in the library, her small hand in mine. I drew because I saw love, she sobbed. Mia. She's scared we'll lose him too. Reconciliation started there, fragile threads. Mia resisted, but Sophie's quiet insistence cracked her shell. One rainy afternoon in their kitchen, Jack mediating, truth spilling like floodwaters. I left because I couldn't lie anymore, he said, voice raw. Not to your mom, not to myself. And Alex. He showed me grace I didn't deserve. Mia's walls crumbled, tears carving paths. I just wanted us whole. We hugged then. Family forged in fire. Sophie sketching us all, lines softening. The board cleared Jack, conditional, community service, counseling, but the town shifted, slow as seasons. We played the championship, under lights that felt like spotlights on our souls. And when I kicked the winner, the crowd's roar drowned old hates. Jack's embrace after public and proud sealed it. It's been a year now. Jack and I navigate careful. Dates in Cleveland diners, hands held under tables. His daughters our unexpected bridge. Mia cheers louder. Sophie sketches our story in vibrant hues. Love, it turns out, isn't a game with winners and losers. It's the halftime huddle, raw and real, where you choose each other anyway. In Elmwood's heartland, under endless skies, we've carved our own field. No fences, just us, running toward dawn. The afterglow of that championship win faded faster than the bruises on my shins, leaving me adrift in the wreckage of what came next. School resumed like a halftime show gone wrong. Awkward stares in the halls, whispers trailing me like exhaust fumes, and Jack's absence from the field of void that echoed louder than any crowd. He was back, technically, but on a leash, mandatory sensitivity workshops that felt more like interrogations, and a principal's office door always ajar during practices. Keep it professional, Harlan? The man had growled, his mustache twitching like it had a personal grudge. Jack nodded, jaw set, but I saw the toll, the way his laugh rang hollow, his eyes scanning for threats even in empty stands. We stole time where we could, fragments pieced into something resembling normal. Saturday mornings at the diner on Route 23, where the hash browns were greasy salvation and the booths hid us from prying eyes. Tell me about Chicago, I'd say, tracing patterns in the condensation on my Coke glass, hungry for pieces of his before. He'd lean in, voice dropping to that intimate timbre that still sent shivers chasing my spine. Wrigley Field on a summer night, the crack of the bat like thunder. Took a guy there once. First date, both of us terrified we'd get caught holding hands in the bleachers. His smile was wistful, fingers brushing mine under the table. A secret Morse code of taps and holds. What about you, artist? What's your Chicago look like? I'd sketch it on napkins. Galleries humming with color, him beside me, no shadows. But home was harder. Mom had become our quiet champion, stocking the fridge with Jack's favorite root beer and slipping me condoms in my backpack, just in case. Her cheeks flushing as she muttered, I trust you, but life's not a fairy tale. Dad called sporadically, his gravelly voice from some truck stop in Nevada laced with discomfort when I mentioned Jack. Man's got baggage, son, and you're still a kid. It stung, that distance, but Mom's fierce, he's more man than most, was bomb enough. The daughters were the real wild card. Their reactions a seesaw of thaw and freeze. Sophie bloomed first, her sketches evolving from dark scribbles to luminous portraits. Jack laughing, me mid-kick, Mia fierce in cheer pose. We'd collaborate in the art room after school. Her small frame perched on a stool, charcoal smudging her nose as she directed. More light here, Alex. Like how Dad looks at you. Those words, innocent from her 12-year-old lips, carried the weight of absolution. One evening, she invited me over for pizza, Jack in the kitchen flipping crusts with exaggerated flair, pretending not to notice how Sophie's eyes lit when I praised her latest piece. It's us, she said shyly, unveiling a canvas of the family plus one. For figures linked in a chain, hands clasped against a stormy sky breaking to sun. I hung it in my room, a talisman against the doubts that crept in at 3 a.m. Mia was steelier, her guard a fortress built on years of upheaval. She'd nod coolly in the halls, participate in group hangs with the team, but her smiles were rationed, eyes flicking to Jack like she waited for him to vanish again. The betrayal lingered, not just hers but ours. She'd trusted Sophie with the sketches, a sister's bond, and I'd been the unwitting villain in her narrative. It culminated one crisp November afternoon, post-practice, when I found her on the bleachers, knees drawn up, staring at the empty field like it held indictments. "Mind if I sit?" I asked, heart hammering. She shrugged, but didn't bolt. Silence stretched, broken only by the wind rustling fallen leaves. "I get it, you know," I ventured finally, voice steady despite the knot in my gut. The anger. Felt it myself when Dad split. Blamed everyone but the empty road. She glanced sideways, ponytail swinging. "You think that's the same?" Dad chose to leave. Chose. You. The word landed like a spike, but I held her gaze. He chose himself first. That's the brave part. Hiding? That would have broken you all worse. She chewed her lip, tears welling but unshed. "Mom says he's confused. That it's a phase like his coaching gigs." I shook my head, gentle. "Phases pass. It's root deep." We sat then, side by side, the field a canvas for unspoken truces. When she finally spoke, it was small. "Sophie misses drawing with you. Don't stop." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a door cracking open. As winter gripped Elmwood, snow blanketing the gridiron like a shroud, our romance deepened in the hush. Jack and I carved out a rhythm. Drives to the quarry's edge, where icy water mirrored star-pricked skies, bundled in his old Letterman jacket that smelled of him. We'd talk futures, dreams tangled like vines. "College for you," he'd say, arm around my shoulders. "Then New York or LA, chasing that art bug. I'll be the proud sap cheering from the stands." I'd lean into him, the solidity of his chest my anchor. "And you?" Head coach somewhere big, daughters in tow. But undercurrents pulled. His ex's lawyer sniffing for leverage, custody hearings looming like storm fronts. "They're mine," he'd growl, fists clenched on the wheel. "No one's taking them." The next conflict brewed from within, a betrayal sharper than Mia's outburst. Tommy Reyes, my supposed best friend since Pee Wee League, had been stewing since homecoming. The slurs started subtle, locker room jabs at coach's pet, escalating to outright sabotage. A missed pass in scrimmage, whispers to the principal about inappropriate favoritism. I confronted him after a particularly vicious hit that left me spitting blood. "What's your damage, man?" he sneered, wiping turf from his pads. "You're ruining him, ruining us. Dad's pulling strings to get me a scholarship. Says you're a distraction." His dad, the hardware store owner, a big donor to the boosters, saw Jack's lifestyle as a threat to the team's purity. It gutted me, that fracture. Tommy, who'd covered for my crushes, shared smokes behind the sheds. Betrayal tasted like rust, and I pulled back, isolating in the weight room, pounding iron until muscles screamed. Jack noticed, of course, cornering me post-workout, steam rising from the showers like ghosts. "Talk to me." I broke then, words tumbling. The sabotage, the loneliness, the fear that I was poison. He pulled me close, water slick between us, forehead to forehead. "You're not poison, Alex. You're the antidote." Our kiss there was desperate, water cascading, a vow against the rising tide. But whispers spread, and by week's end, Tommy's confession to the coach, forced by guilt or pressure, who knows, exposed the ringleaders. A clique of parents, plotting to oust Jack. The town meeting was a circus, held in the high school auditorium under buzzing fluorescents, folding chairs creaking with barely contained fury. I sat in the back with Mom, her hand gripping mine like a lifeline, while Jack faced the microphone, daughters flanking him like sentinels. Mia rigid, Sophie clutching his sleeve. The accusations flew, moral decay, unfit role model, scandal-staining Elmwood's values. A red-faced father thundered, "We don't need that agenda in our schools." But then unlikely allies rose. Principal Hargrove, clearing his throat. Mrs. Patel from the library, voice steady. "I've seen Coach Harlan mentor kids no one else touched. Seen Alex bloom from shadow to star. Love doesn't corrupt. Hiding it does." Jack spoke last, voice resonant as a pass over defenders. "I came here broken, yes. Divorce a mirror to truths I dodged half my life. But this team, this town, you've mended me. My daughters taught forgiveness. Alex, courage. If that's not American grit, I don't know what is." Silence fell, thick, then applause. Scattered at first, swelling to thunder. The vote passed. Jack stays with guidelines but stays. In the parking lot after, under sodium glow, Mia hugged me fierce, first time. Her whisper hot against my ear. "Don't screw it up." Sophie giggled, and Jack's arm around us all felt like home. Winter broke then, literal and figurative, snow melting to reveal green shoots. Our love, once hidden, took tentative steps into light. Handholds at the malt shop, his truck parked brazenly in my drive for family dinners. Romance flowered. A spring formal where he chaperoned. Our dance a sway in the shadows, his breath warm on my neck. "Forever starts somewhere," he murmured. And in Elmwood, under budding maples, it did. But humanism's not tidy bows. Scars linger. Tommy and I mended slow. A nod in the hall evolving to pick up games. Apologies traded over burgers. Jack's ex backed off. Custody shared. Her own reflections softening edges. The daughters? They became my family. Mia confiding crushes, Sophie my muse. In the end, it's not the highs or lows that define, but the choosing, to stay, to love, to heal. On that field, under endless Midwestern skies, we chose. Spring unfurled in Elmwood like a reluctant confession. Dogwoods blushing pink along the riverbanks, and the air humming with the promise of proms and playoffs. For Jack and me, it was a season of cautious blooms. Our relationship no longer a subterranean root, but a shoot testing sunlight, fragile against late frosts of judgment. Practices resumed with a new undercurrent, the team circling wagons around us. High fives lingered, inside jokes coded with solidarity. But eyes from the stands still appraised, and Jack's every laugh carried an echo of caution. "One step at a time," he'd say, squeezing my hand in the truck's cab, his calluses a map of battles won. The daughters wove deeper into the fabric, their presences shifting from peripheral to pivotal. Sophie, ever the quiet architect, orchestrated family nights, with the zeal of a pint-sized event planner. Movie marathons in the Victorian's creaky living room, popcorn kernels popping like fireworks, her head on my lap as credits rolled. "You're good for him?" she'd murmur during Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner's ghost dad monologue hitting too close. Jack would ruffle her hair, eyes meeting mine over the lamplight, a silent thank you in the crinkle of his crow's feet. Mia, thawing by degrees, dragged me into her world. Mall runs to the Tri-County outlet, where she'd model ripped jeans and Doc Martens, soliciting my opinion with a smirk. "Not bad for a jock, huh?" I'd quip, and she'd roll her eyes, but the barrier lowered stories of her mom's glamour in Chicago, the ache of split holidays. One evening, over froyo drips and arcade lights, she dropped the bomb. "I outed you guys because I was scared. Thought if I blew it up, Dad would stay put. Stupid, right?" I nodded, no judgment. Brave now, owning it. Her grin, genuine, was victory sweeter than any kick. Yet conflict simmered beneath the idol, betrayal's embers flaring in unexpected quarters. Jack's past, that Chicago specter he'd hinted at, materialized in a letter forwarded from his old address. From his college ex, one Danny Whitaker, now a high school counselor in Milwaukee. The words were innocuous on surface. Catch up, congrats on the coaching gig. But the subtext? A pull of what-ifs, enclosed photo of Danny with a partner and kids, smiling in a frame that screamed settled life. Jack shared it over coffee one dawn, the kitchen clock ticking like a countdown. He wrote after the news hit the alumni group. Says he's proud, but reads like regret. I swallowed the jealousy, sharp as vinegar, forcing calm. You talked to him? He shook his head, but doubt flickered. Not yet. But closure, maybe? It gnawed, that ghost. Nights when Jack stared at the ceiling, phone dark beside him, and I'd feign sleep, heart twisting. Romance, for all its poetry, bred insecurity. Was I the rebound, the small-town detour? The climax crested mid-May, during a weekend tournament in Columbus. The team bunked in a roadside motel that smelled of chlorine and cheap pine. We won handily, adrenaline electric, but post-game, Jack's phone buzzed insistent. Danny, he muttered, stepping onto the balcony, voice low through the thin door. I eavesdropped, shame burning. Laughter first, then deeper tones, confessions of missed chances. When he returned, face drawn, I couldn't hold it. Tell me I'm not second place. His eyes widened, pain mirroring mine. Alex, no, Danny's echo, not encore. You're the now, the everything. But words weren't enough. I bolted, sneakers slapping pavement to the motel's edge, overlooking the Scioto River's sluggish flow. He found me there, minutes later, coat over pajamas, pulling me into an embrace that cracked my resolve. I called to end it proper, he whispered, lips to my temple. Told him about you, about us. Relief flooded, mingled with tears, his mine. As we clung, the river murmuring absolution. That night, in my single room, chaperone codes be damned. We held each other close, kisses soft explorations of trust rebuilt, boundaries respected in the quiet intimacy of shared breath. Back in Elmwood, the humanistic we've tightened. Mom hosted a barbecue, the backyard grill smoking with burgers and brats, neighbors trickling in despite the awkwardness. Old Mr. Kowalski with his polka stories, the Patels bearing samosas. Jack manned the tongs, daughters darting between cornhole tosses, and for a moment, it felt ordinary. Laughter overriding old divides, Sophie's face paint smudging as she cheered my throw. But betrayal's shadow lingered in Mia's vigilance. She'd glimpsed the letter, pieced the turmoil, and confronted Jack in a blowout that echoed through the house. Another guy? After Mom. Her scream, raw, pulled me into the fray, mediator by default. We sat in the living room, lamplight pooling like spilled milk, truths airing. Jack's youth, the suppression, the divorce's deeper root in authenticity sought. I won't lose you to ghosts, Mia vowed, hugging him fierce. Sophie added her piece, a poem scrawled on ruled paper. Roots dig deep, not back. Summer scorched in, practices shifting to dawn to beat the heat. Our bond a steady pulse amid the sweat. Romance romanticized the mundane. Picnics by the quarry, his head in my lap as I read aloud from Kerouac, road-worn souls resonating. Stargazing on the Victorian roof, Sophie's telescope trained on Orion. Mia blasting indie playlists from below. Deep emotions surfaced in waves. Jack's fear of aging out of my youth, my dread of college cleaving us. We'll bridge it, he'd affirm, fingers tracing my palm's lines. Love's not a sprint. The next rift was external, a storm from the Boosters Club. Anonymous emails to the board, dredging Jack's divorce details, painting him as predator. It peaked at a closed session, Jack summoned alone, emerging ashen but unbroken. They're bluffing, he reported later. Us on the porch swing, daughters inside baking cookies. But the toll showed, sleepless nights, coffee black as his mood. I rallied the team, a petition circulating in locker bays. Coach Harlan stays, for the win, for the heart. Signatures flooded, even from rivals, a testament to the man who'd forged us. Resolution came humanistic, no grand gestures but quiet victories. The board's dismissal of claims, a town newsletter op-ed from yours truly, love on the line. Why Elmwood needs coaches like Jack. Mia co-signed, her cheer voice amplifying. Sophie illustrated it, a field of figures diverse and linked. The backlash ebbed, replaced by tentative acceptance. A nod from the hardware dad at the gas station. Tommy's invite to his grad party. By July 4th, fireworks bursting over the river. We gathered. Family expanded. Mom, the Harlans, team stragglers. Watching sparks mirror our sparks. Jack pulled me aside, under willow branches weeping light. You saved me, kid. I kissed him then, public for the first time, brief but bold, daughters whooping from afar. Betrayal scars faded to stories, conflicts to chapters closed. In America's heartland, where fields stretch to horizons, love proves not the absence of storm, but the courage to dance in rain. Autumn circled back like an old playbook, leaves turning gold as senior year kicked off with the scent of fresh chalk and possibility. For me, it was a pivot point. Applications to Pratt in Brooklyn looming, portfolio bursting with Jack-inspired works. Dynamic figures in motion, emotions etched in bold strokes. Our romance had settled into a comfortable intensity, the kind that anticipates silences and savors glances. Mornings began with his texts, simple, steady. Coffee run? Black, 2 sugars. Evenings ended with porch swings, his arm a casual drape, daughters' voices drifting from open windows like soundtrack to our ease. But depth bred vulnerability, emotions raw as exposed nerves. Jack's custody stabilized. Shared summers with his ex in Chicago, a diplomatic dance. But the pull of his old life tugged. One weekend, he went alone. Mia and Sophie opting for a lake trip with Mom's family. Returning quieter, shadows in his eyes. Danny showed up at a bar mixer. He confessed over takeout lo mein, chopsticks idle. Not stalking, just coincidence. Talked past, mostly, but stirred mud. Jealousy flickered, but I tamped it, opting for empathy. Stirred for him or you? He searched my face, honest. Bit of both. Made me grateful for this. His hand over mine, warm anchor. We talked it through, late into night, peeling layers. His fear of monotony, my terror of outgrowing. Romance reaffirmed in whispers. A slow dance in the kitchen to Coltrane on vinyl. Bodies swaying to saxophone sighs. The daughters evolved, their arcs humanistic tapestries. Sophie, entering middle school, channeled her sensitivity into advocacy. Starting a GSA club at Elmwood Junior High, posters of rainbows and quotes from Audre Lorde tacked in halls. For kids like you were, she'd say, hugging me after meetings, her enthusiasm a bomb. Mia, now a senior like me, navigated her own awakening. A crush on the debate team star, a bi-curious spark she'd confide over late-night drives. Dad's cool about it, said love's a spectrum, not a straight line. Her laughter, free, marked healing. No longer the accuser, but ally, co-conspirator in family pranks. Swapping Jack's playbook notes with doodles of us as superheroes. Conflict reignited from an unforeseen betrayal. The local paper, that rag of a gazette, ran a feature on Elmwood's evolving family dynamics. Thinly veiled hit piece quoting anonymous sources. Twisted tales of Jack's influence on youth. It cited my name, portfolio evidence of favoritism. Igniting a firestorm. Parent emails, school board grumbles, even a protest flyer tacked to the gym door. Protect our kids. The wound was personal, my art, once sanctuary, weaponized. I spiraled, shredding sketches in a frenzy. Mom finding me amid confetti carnage. This isn't you, she said, piecing one back. Fight with creation, not destruction. Jack rallied, but his own ghosts amplified the hurt. Flashbacks to college scandals. Whispers that ended his playing days. I won't let them touch you, he vowed, pacing the Victorian study. Phone in hand to lawyers. The climax unfolded at a town hall redux. Auditorium packed tighter than a playoff rush. I spoke first, voice trembling but rising. My art's about truth, love's truth in all its mess. Coach Harlan didn't groom, he grew us. Applause mixed with boos, but Mia followed, fierce. As his daughter, I say he's the best dad, flaws and all. Sophie read her poem, voice quavering. Shadows flee when light is shared. Jack closed, unflinching. I've betrayed no one but myself once. Now, I stand for what's right. The room shifted, not unanimous but swayed. Handshakes post-meeting, a booster's quiet, sorry son. The paper retracted, Editor citing sources recanted. Betrayal transmuted to bridge. Tommy, guilt-ridden, leaked the anonymous tipster. A disgruntled ex-booster with a grudge. Justice, small-scale but satisfying. Fall deepened. Emotions layering like frost. Romance turned reflective. Leaf-peeping drives to Hocking Hills. Trails crunching under boots. Jack's stories of boyhood hikes with his father. Parallels to my dad's absences. We break chains, he'd say, kissing my knuckles. Deep talks by campfires. Stars wheeling overhead. Futures sketched in embers. My Brooklyn dreams. His potential move east for scouting gigs. We'll make it work. Assurance woven with ache. Winter whispered early. First snow dusting the field like powdered sugar. Holiday lights strung the Victorian. Our blended family a tableau. Mom's lax mingling with Jack's chili. Sophie's ornaments dangling beside Mia's cheer ribbons. Christmas Eve. Gifts exchanged by tree glow. Jack's to me a leather-bound sketchbook. Inscribed, "For the stories only you see." Mine to him. A portrait. Us on the field, eternal mid-stride. Daughter's gifted collages. Memories montaged. From divorce debris to now's delight. But humanism demands reckoning. Jack's ex visited. A tense dinner where old wounds aired. "I blamed you," she admitted to him, eyes soft on the girls. "But seeing this, it's right." Forgiveness flowed. Tentative, a family reconfigured. Spring teed up with playoffs, our last as teammates. Me graduating, Jack's legacy cementing. Tension built. Scouts eyeing me for kicks, but off-field noise distracting. A rival coach's cheap shot in press. Harlan's boys play soft. Stung, but we channeled it. Huddle chants laced with "for us." The semifinal was epic. Under floodlights slicing sleet. Score tied in fourth. My kick, mudslick, hung eternal, swish. Elation erupted. Jack's hug lifting me. Public pride unchained. Post-game. In the lot. Rain sheeting. We kissed unhurried. World be damned. Betrayals past. Conflicts conquered. Emotions crested in joy. Summer beckoned, graduation caps tossed like confetti. Elmwood's fields, once battlegrounds, now cradles. Love, dramatic in its trials, romantic in its holds, proved enduring, human, flawed, profound. Graduation dawned hazy and hot. Elmwood High's gyms sweltering with polyester gowns and teary hugs. The air thick with pomp and circumstance, and the metallic tang of folding chairs. I crossed the stage to cheers. Mom's whoop piercing, Jack's proud nod from the bleachers, daughter's waving signs scrawled with "Kick-ass, Alex," diploma in hand, future sprawling like the Ohio plains. But the real weight was the man waiting post-ceremony. His embrace a promise amid the chaos. "Brooklyn's gain," he murmured, lips brushing my ear. "But you're mine first." Romance, in that moment, felt infinite. Emotions a swell of gratitude, laced with the bittersweet pinch of impending miles. Summer stretched languid, a bridge between chapters. I worked shifts at the local print shop, churning out flyers for fairs and farms, ink staining fingers like temporary tattoos. Jack coached summer league, his whistle a familiar cadence, but our days wove freer. Mornings tangled in his sheets, lazy explorations of skin and soul, boundaries honored in tender maps. Afternoons with the girls. Mia prepping for Northwestern debates, Sophie summer camping with art scouts. Evenings, barbecues on the riverbank, fireflies winking like conspirators as guitars strummed folk tunes. Deep conversations flowed like the current. Jack's memoir dreams, penning coaching tales with queer undercurrents. My exhibit plans, canvases of Midwestern myths reimagined. Yet climax loomed in quiet betrayal's guise. Not malice, but fate's cruel pivot. A scout's offer came mid-July. Full ride to Pratt, but accelerated start. Move in August, not fall. Elation warred with dread. Jack's face, when I shared, crumpled beneath the brave smile. "It's your shot, kid. Can't clip wings." But nights grew heavy, silences pregnant with unsaid goodbyes. Emotions churned, love's depth amplifying loss's edge. Mia sensed it, pulling me for a walk along Maple's cracked sidewalks. "Don't fade out," she warned, voice edged with her own college fears. Dad's tough, but he's human. Sophie drew it literal. A split-path illustration, us diverging yet tethered by glowing thread. Threads don't break, she insisted, hugging tight. The conflict peaked Labor Day weekend. A farewell bash at the quarry. Bonfire crackling, team alumni grilling dogs, laughter echoing off water. Jack and I slipped away at dusk, perched on the rocky lip, legs dangling over abyss. What if distance dulls us? I voiced the fear, voice small against the lapping waves. He turned, eyes fierce. Then we sharpen it, visits, calls, the works. Love's not proximity. It's choice. But doubt lingered, betrayal in the miles themselves. A slow poison. That night, under canvas of stars, we made promises physical. Bodies entwined gentle, reaffirming in whispers and touches. Romantic anchor against tide. Fall arrived crisp, U-Haul loaded with boxes and hopes. The drive to Brooklyn was epic. Jack behind the wheel, daughters piled in back with snacks and playlists, mom trailing in her Civic. Stops at diners for pie and pit stops, stories swapping like baseball cards. Arrival at the dorms. Narrow streets buzzing, brownstones like storybook spines. Unpacking became ritual. Sophie's artwork taped to walls. Mia's debate tips scrawled on mirrors. Jack hanging my first campus sketch. The field, eternal. Call tonight, he said at parting. Kiss lingering in the cab's hush. Daughters pretending not to see but smiling soft. Distance tested, true. First weeks a blur of critiques and concrete, homesickness a hollow ache. Calls bridged. Jack's voice tinny but warm. Recounting practices, girls' antics. Miss your kick, he'd tease. Miss your everything, I'd counter. Emotions deepened in absence. Letters handwritten. His scrawl confessing vulnerabilities. Mine poems of city lights mirroring heart fires. Holidays healed. Thanksgiving in Elmwood. Table groaning with turkey and toasts. Christmas in Chicago, ex included, a full circle grace. Betrayal revisited in micro. A teammate's gossip filtering back. Coach dating around? Sparked by a misinterpreted photo from a booster event. Jack shut it down swift, but the sting prompted a weekend flight home. Confrontation in the Victorian's kitchen over cocoa. Trusts the game, I said, and he nodded, pulling me close. Won it with you. Resolution humanistic. We set boundaries, transparency as armor. Years folded forward, me thriving in galleries. First solo show, Fields of Fire, a nod to roots. Jack promoted to head coach, daughters flourishing. Mia advocating in poli-sci, Sophie at RISD, sketches in magazines. Visits wove the miles thin. Him at my openings, me at championships. Romance matured, no less passionate. Anniversaries in Central Park, hands clasped against autumn chill. Quiet weekends in Elmwood, porch swings creaking with stories. The true climax, reflective now. A decade on, Jack's retirement game, stadium packed with alumni, including us, me with my own mentee artists, him graying but grinning. Post-win, under lights, he proposed. Not ring, but words. Build the rest with me? Tears, yes. Family encircling. Daughters walked me down an aisle in a courthouse simple. Vows echoing American dreams redeemed. Ending humanistic, no tidy tragedy or triumph, but life's continuum. Love as verb, enduring through betrayals mended, conflicts conquered, emotions honored. In America's vast tapestry, from Ohio fields to Brooklyn bridges, we found our thread, woven strong. And in the quiet after, holding Jack's hand, I knew. The story's not end, but ever unfolding dawn.